I've started making the mill, finally. So stay tuned and all will be revealed. Right, so you can see now I've actually made a start on the buildings. Now this is the main building, the biggest part of it, the bit that's got a partial glass roof as well. So obviously this joins onto that and that joins onto that. And yes, that is correct. That does butt up to the next building, which kind of is a little bit taller, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, like that. So I'll now show you how I went about doing this. Well, there it is. I did say I was buying a machine and I finally got round to doing it. This is a Cricut Maker 3. The reason for getting this is purely because of all of those windows. Now you can imagine trying to cut out all of that lot by hand. I know Michael does from Chandwell, and I take my hat off to you, mate, if you watch this. But I thought I'm not gonna go into all that effort, particularly when you've got gaps of about that big. Now I could do it, but to get that without that bit breaking off is a lot of effort. This is a sticky mat, so all of this is stuck down, and as you can see, the idea being is you then put masking tape around the outside, and that just really holds things still and rigid, because this is still 2mm board. So I think thinner stuff, you don't need the tape, but you just stick it to the mat, clean your mat off afterwards, give it a bit of a wash under water, and then just let it dry, and the stickiness still stays. You do have to change these over a period of time, and you can see I've got a little stash just down there. So that's one of the reasons for buying it, but as you can appreciate, it's not a cheap item and it's not one-time use either. So I will be using it on many other projects in the future, I'm absolutely certain that. And there's also the 00 gauge layout as well, which actually sits behind me for the time being. I'm not going to show you that, but that will be due for a major overhaul at some point in the future. Not sure when though. Right, now I'm not going to go into any great depth on this, and I'm certainly not going to spend a long time on it either. But if you do decide to buy one of these machines, you can't just use any software to make the machine work. You have to use Cricut Design Space, which is a free download from the internet. And you can see it does come with some fairly basic graphics tools as well. Now it's a craft machine, so if you go into these areas down here, you can download different cards and scrapbooking ideas and things like that. But as I've said before, you can just go in and create shapes. So if I click on that, you can see you've got some basic shapes there, which you can then combine and subtract, just like you can in Tinkercad. If you want all those extra shapes, oops, just dropped it. There are some more below, but you can see that bit at the top says included with subscription. Now that's 30 something pounds a year, I believe, but I can't really see the point in paying 30 odd pounds just to use those particular shapes when it wouldn't be that difficult to make them out of those. So I'm not going to do that. But if you're into crafting and you make lots of cards and other designs and cups and whatever it might be, then it might be something which is worth investing in. But for me, making buildings, it's purely rectangles and semicircles, that type of thing that I'm going to be using, ovals, whatever. But there we go. So once you've done that, you click make at the top corner. It then asks you what material you're going to put on. You cut into it, and then it just goes through a few bits with you. What do you want to use? And then it sends it to the machine. There you go. For those people who have never seen one of these things working, So you've just got, it's very similar to the 3D printer. You've got the mat which goes that way, and then you've got the carriage which goes along that big thick bar. And the blade just goes down, cuts along, up again, and so on and so on. All right. Right, there we go. There's a piece just come off the cutter now. So all you do, they've cut nicely through, so you literally just push them out. And, you know, that is so much less effort to sit in there with a scalpel and a rule, and some will come out beautifully, and then you'll get a few of them off. And then you end up with some window apertures bigger than others, and oh dear, no thank you. No, this has made life so much easier. Anyway, speak to you soon. Well, there's the first building. Obviously it's still very basic, and as you can see, what I've decided to do is modify it ever so slightly from the original size. There were a couple of people who made some comments with regard to perhaps I should make it a little bit smaller, to make it fit the scene a bit better by not only reducing the height of it, but also reducing the length and the width. Now, what I've decided to do was to modify the width. I was going to do the length as well, but it just didn't look quite right. And so I think if I measure, I've reduced the width here, which means I can have a slightly wider section there. That's probably going to be the size of it is. That's 50 millimeters that way. I'm not sure, probably about 70 that way maybe. So the new building that I have made it, and I'll show you at the end of the video with that bit. I'm hoping to get this bit at least to this standard. But you can also see that I've gone full steam ahead into producing the windows. I'll show you, there are a few. So that's a 3-pane window. It's more of the same. And 4-pane windows, or 8-pane windows I should say. And I think that one, oh, they're more 6s. Yeah, so there are a fair few to produce, as you can appreciate. I'm guessing there's probably about 100 or more windows in this. And that's why I'm using the machine to cut them all out. I'd be there forever and a day, wouldn't I? Anyway, so I will crack on and get this bit sorted and that bit sorted, and I will show you later. Right, welcome back. Now, I'm not going to show you right now in my normal fashion, but the 3 main parts of the building are at least to that sort of basic structure now. There still needs to be, like, some parts have got little add-on towers, if you like, for want of a better phrase. They've not been added on. It's literally just the basic 3 shapes. But I'm going to crack on and I'll show you all that at the end. Now, this I got before Scale Model Scenery sort of put everything into a subscription-based service. So this was in the original days when Scale Model Scenery just released their papers, and you bought them, you downloaded them and paid for them. Now this is like an old-fashioned brick ashlar, which I think is probably the closest I've got to the mill itself. So I will cover it with that, and then obviously it will need to be mottled and darkened down in places, etc, etc, etc. Now the way I'm going to do that, as I've covered the building, is to literally wrap it around like so. So I'll probably take 2 pieces to do that. Yes, it will. 2 sheets to do that. Cut off the excess, obviously. Once it's stuck down and glued, then it'll be a case of going through with punching through with the scalpel. In fact, I'll do that bit and I'll show you. Right, I just thought I'd just show you, to be honest. Now, I always use Pritt stick for this sort of stuff. Why? Because it's dry. And you're not going to get wrinkling on the paper. But you do have to put a decent layer on, and it's got to be... you wipe it over at least twice on all of it. Every single little bit. So look across it to see if you can see any bits that are not shiny. because the whole thing must be, yeah, you can probably just about make it out there. It's not so good, that bit there. And so on and so on. I think I've got most of it. You've got to work fairly quickly, obviously, because it dries. Oops, excuse me. I'll do it this way round. So line at the top. Why line at the top? Because the bottom is going to give me a flat edge, whereas the top will give me an even edge. Now just lining this edge up here to make sure it's nice and even, if you like. Now you notice I've put a floor in there. That's purely to help with the stability of the building. Sorry, I keep catching the tripod like that. And then I'm going to use a roller, one of these. I bought this for the Cricut machine, which I showed you earlier on. So I'm just giving that a quick roll. The correct term for these is a brayer, but you know, I've always known them as rollers for years and years, and it hasn't done me any harm, has it? Anyway, that's one side done, and you can see that's all in there. So I've got to do exactly the same with this, and then I'll show you how to cut the windows out in a minute. Right, so I've put the paper on one side, as you can see. Now, the next step is to cut a little slit just down there, because obviously I've got an overlap, and that should be stuck. I've literally just gone over the edge with more Pritt stick or whatever solid glue you prefer. And hopefully you can see this, but I'm now going to use the scalpel literally just to slice down there. I'm going very gentle cuts. I'm not pushing, letting the blade do the work. So if it's take 5 cuts, it takes 5 cuts like that. And then obviously the same down there, just very gently running up against the edge of the card that's already there, like so, like that. Okay, I'll then do exactly the same there, just slit down there, and in fact, to be honest with you, I might just fold this piece over, as long as it doesn't interfere with the windows, and then again might just fold that bit over just to make life easy for myself. Right, I will get all of that covered, and I will show you the next bit shortly. Right, as you can see now, I've covered the whole of that building. And what I'm going to do now is to start cutting out the windows. And what I do for that is I mark off, or I feel where they are, and I just puncture through. So I could do it from the inside like that and just make a slit and just slit down through the middle like that. And then at the top, slit across and across, go down. And so you're making like a capital I shape, if you like, and like that. And then they can be folded back just by folding like that. That type of thing. Okay, sorry, went out a bit out of focus there. And then if you want to, you can put a little bit of glue on there. And the way to be doing that would be a bit of PVA. So I'm just going to dribble a little bit in there. In fact, that's gone off. It's gone out on the tip again. But I'll just put a little bit either side there and just literally just smooth it over either side. Okay, I will aim to try and get this as much of this done as I possibly can, but please bear in mind there's probably about 80 odd windows there. I'll catch you shortly. Right, I'm just sitting below the layout now, and you can see I've cut out and blended in all the windows. Now I'll just do a quick spin and then I'll put it on the layout. So there it is, that's the start of the mill. Now before I go any further, it is sitting a bit high, and what I'm planning on doing is cutting into this piece and removing all the bit below and then sinking it in. I think that might make an awful lot more sense, and then I can blend this in. Now, as I mentioned to, I think it was John from X-Haven in his comment, one of the things I might do is take one little bit at a time, and then if I have to go back and modify the previous bit to make the new bit fit, that's what I'll do. And this bit obviously will need to be modified to adjust it. I've put that wall in there. It is a little bit on the wide side, but to be honest with you, I'm not going to worry about it too much, to be honest. I want to know the types of landscapes and the things I'm going to be building in this model. Please go and check out my last video, because that's a tour around the actual site, and that will give you a good idea of what I'm aiming at, even though this will be more of a representation as opposed to a scale model. Hopefully you can start to get the impression of what's going to happen. This building will just have to be shoved back into this foliage a little bit more. It'll be fine, as long as there's a gap for people to get through there, probably about a centimetre, then that'll bore. So it's getting there. Just a little view from the other side. Sorry, it's a bit of a shadowy effect, but so this is where the tables and chairs will be, around there. And obviously be the big platform, if you like. The ruins will be around here. There'll be more buildings here, as I've just showed you with that a bit, and the chimney will be about here. All right, I think I'm going to leave the video just there, and I will catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly. Take care.